Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome inside the gymnasium at Milford High School as Milford TV is happy to bring you coverage of Scarlet Hawks athletics. This is Tim Coet on the call as we bring you tonight's home opener for the Milford girls basketball team. The Lady Hawks getting set to take on a rival from the Kelly Rex division within the Hockomock League. Tonight it is the Franklin Lady Panthers. And this is game number 2 on the regular season schedule for the Lady Scarlet Hawks. They got their season started a couple of days ago, earlier this week on Tuesday night, on the road, taking on their counterparts from King Philip. And despite a good offensive night all the way around, Milford ended up falling in that game, dropping that one to King Philip despite a 22-point effort from Kate Irwin, the senior captain on this team. Milford ended up on the losing side of a 64-56 final, so a high-scoring game. But a loss for the Lady Hawks to start them off 0-1 on the season, but they look to jump right back into the win column here tonight as they get set to take on the Franklin Lady Panthers. But again, before we look into this season, we do want to take a quick look back at how things ended for the Lady Scarlet Hawks last year. Of course, last year continued to be a good year in terms of development for this program, the second year under head coach TJ Dolliver, and it started off exceptionally well for the girls last year, winning 8 of their first 10 games. They looked like the playoffs were a mere formality. They stood just 2 wins away from a playoff spot, but as the second half of the season rolled on, it became a very different story. It ended up being the exact inverse of how the season started. Milford starting the season 8-2. They finished the season just 2-8 and just barely snuck into the playoffs, where they ultimately faced off against Marlborough, the very same opponent that the Milford boys faced in the opening round of their playoff bracket. And that playoff game for the girls turned out to be a little bit of a microcosm for their season. Bouts of inconsistency that put Milford behind the 8 ball early in that game. They dug deep late, in particular in the fourth quarter, where they made things very interesting, erasing a 12-point fourth quarter deficit, cutting it all the way down to just 4 points with under a minute to go. But that was as close ultimately as Milford was able to get, losing that game to the Lady Panthers, the Lady Marlborough Panthers, I should say, by a final score of 60-55. So that was how last year ended, a 10-10 regular season. They did make the playoffs, which was a first for this nucleus of players that are now in their senior season for this Lady Hawks program. So that was important, an important step forward. That was something that Coach Dolliver had said throughout last year. He wanted to see this team make the playoffs. A lot of playoff experience in other sports for the girls on this team, but he wanted to see this team make the playoffs as a basketball team, to see what they were made of and to, again, continue to keep that development moving forward. So that was exactly what happened, but now looking to take that next step forward and contend possibly for a Davenport Division Championship, and they certainly have a lot of experience. You could make the argument this is the most experienced varsity roster of any team in the Hockomock League this year, with 7 seniors on this roster, and of those 7 seniors, 4 of them have been on the varsity team for all 4 years of their varsity career, and all 4 of those players are captains on this team this year. Kate Irwin, of course, the conversation has to start with Kate, the star in the Hockomock League last season, finished 3rd in the Hockomock League in points per game, and has been an exceptionally gifted scorer for all of her previous 3 years of her varsity career, averaging 16 points per game last season, which again was good for the 3rd best mark in all of the Hockomock League. She will once again be relied upon heavily to contribute to this offense, to really drive this offense forward as the season goes on. Emily Pierre-Gustavo, also a captain on this team, and Emily now fully 1 year removed from coming back off of that shoulder injury that cost her all of her sophomore year on this basketball team. And she is, of course, a very good sharpshooter for this offense and also a very good defender as well. And also down low, Milford will count on Jillian Valenzola and Juliana Tracy, who are really 2 of the most tough, hard-nosed players in all of the league. They will battle you underneath the boards all night long, providing a lot of matchup troubles. And of course, Jess Tomaso, also a huge X factor on this team as well. Very good outside shooting, really had a standout performance in that playoff game at Marlborough a year ago. She actually led the team in scoring 17 points in that losing effort. So Jess will also be a key cog in the wheel of this offense as the season goes on as well. Other returning players to watch out for as well include Kate Lobiser, who will also provide this team some length and athleticism, and also Julie Rabinowitz, who is a spark plug off the bench for this team, brings a lot of attitude in a positive way for this program. So a lot of talent returning for this team, but also a lot of new players as well. 7 new players on this varsity roster, including 4 freshmen who will swing back and forth from varsity to JV as the season goes on. So a lot of new contributors expected to step up on the team as well. So a very interesting mix that will be fun to watch as this season goes on. So we are excited to see this team get their home schedule started here tonight. They take on a Franklin program that was a team in transition a year ago. They lost a huge portion of their core heading into last season, and it definitely showed in the early days of the season. Franklin, I should say, losing their first 6 consecutive games out of the chute. But once they started to gel together as a new unit, they really made some tremendous strides in just that first year of that new core of players being in place. And for Franklin, the player to watch first and foremost is the very talented sophomore Allie Brigham. She stands at 6'3", so one of the lengthiest players in girls basketball this season, a very gifted scorer, so she will be someone to watch out for. Very good height up and down this Lady Panthers roster. So there is some very good talent as Franklin, as they usually do, they don't necessarily rebuild, they reload, and after a few early season struggles last year, it looks like this program is once again on track to do some serious damage over in the Kelly Rex division. So it should be a very entertaining matchup to watch. It is the Milford Lady Scarlet Hawks taking on the Franklin Lady Panthers. Player introductions about to take place at court level. We will step aside very briefly, and we will be back with the opening tip when we return next here on coverage of Milford High School athletics on Milford TV. And welcome right back inside Milford High School Gymnasium. Time to get this game underway. Milford taking on Franklin, and before we see the opening tip, here are your starting fives for these two teams. For the visitors, the Franklin Lady Panthers, it is Bree Atwood, Shannon Gray, Elizabeth Wilson, Bae Bondis, and Allie Brigham. And for the Lady Scarlet Hawks, it is Kate Irwin, Emily Pierre Gustavo, Jillian Valenzola, Jess Tomaso, and Juliana Tracy. An all-senior starting lineup, all 4 of the captains for the squad represented in their starting 5. Irwin, Pierre Gustavo, Valenzola, and Tracy. As Valenzola, along with Brigham, line up for the opening tip. And Brigham ends up knocking it right into the hands of Emily Pierre Gustavo. So it is the Lady Hawks who control the opening tip. As this girls basketball action is underway, so happy to see the Lady Scarlet Hawks back here at home. It is the only time they will be at home in the month of December. So they'll have an extended stay on the road to open up the season, as early on we see a look from beyond the arc for Jess Tomaso. No good on the shot. Milford originally controlling the rebound. But now Franklin takes it up the floor. Just 30 seconds into this first quarter action. There's the player to watch, number 24, Allie Brigham, roaming underneath the basket. An imposing target out there again, standing at 6'3". Oftentimes you see it in the league with a 6-footer at your disposal in girls basketball. You have the opportunity to really clean up the boards, get a lot of easy buckets. Here's Tomaso again from 3-point range, so really trying to get Tomaso going here in this opening minute of play. She's already missed a couple of shots, but we see an early foul called. And that one will go against Juliana Tracy. Picking up the foul just about 50 seconds into this game. A subdued crowd, a bit of a light crowd here for this first girls game of the season. The boys right now playing on the road at Franklin. As the shot gets tossed up by Elizabeth Wilson, no good. Now Kate Irwin racing the floor, has one defender to beat, cuts around, but can't finish at the rim. Now both Irwin and Pierre Gustavo go down hard as the ball ricochets out of play, and it will be Franklin basketball. Anxiously awaiting the first shot attempt of the night for the senior captain, Kate Irwin. We have seen her play since her freshman year, now in our 4th year of full coverage of Milford High School athletics on Milford TV, and Kate's progress has been incredible in her now 4 years here at Milford High School, contributing in a big way right from day 1 of her freshman year as Milford forces the turnover. And one thing that will be an interesting storyline to watch as this season goes on is Kate's quest for 1,000 points for her varsity career. Still in search of an exact number of where Kate stands in terms of her career points scored, but we do believe that she was somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 points away from that 1,000-point mark heading into the season. Had a 22-point performance in Milford's loss at King Philip earlier this year. And you can't help but look over at that 1,000-point scorer banner here in the gym. There is only one girls basketball name represented on that list, Jenna Mackey. So Kate would love to become the second girls basketball player to reach that 1,000-point plateau, but we'll have more on that as the season progresses. They swing it around the outside. Franklin does, setting up the shot for the captain, Bae Bondis, and she is able to put through the first points of this basketball game. Franklin an early 3-0 lead. Here's Joe Valenzola the other way, is able to drive baseline and flips it in. And a big cheering section here for Jill. She got a big round of applause during player introductions a few moments ago, and now gets a good cheer as she puts home the first 2 points of Milford's night here tonight, cutting it to an early 1-point margin. Still just under 5.5 minutes to play in this first quarter. And they'll call the foul against Emily Pierre-Gustavo, who shrugs the shoulders in disbelief. So Milford picking up a couple of fouls here so far in the first quarter. We saw the boys basketball team get into all sorts of foul trouble throughout their home opener, a loss to King Philip here on Tuesday night. They feed it down low to Brigham, now kicking it back out, and they'll count it from 3-point range for Bree Atwood. And so the outside shooting starting to pay dividends for Franklin as they now take a 6-2 lead. There's Tracy now around the perimeter, getting it to Pierre-Gustavo. Now Irwin in the corner has some room, but a little bit too strong on the shot. And the rebound settled down by Shannon Gray. Franklin up by 4 early. Irwin right now defending the 6'3" Allie Brigham, who gets it back now, driving inside. Milford commits 2 defenders. Foul going against Milford. May have been Jess Tomaso. It was hard to tell. Franklin missing the shot. Good pass ahead to Pierre-Gustavo underneath the basket, and there is that excellent court vision for Kate Irwin. Able to shoot an accurate pass ahead to her fellow senior captain. Now Franklin ahead quickly in transition. Milford able to get back in numbers as the shot bounces over the backboard. The miss for Bondis. Bae Bondis, as far as we're aware, is the only captain for this Franklin team. Getting a look at their official roster sent over earlier today from Franklin High School. She was the only player designated with the C, despite there being a couple of seniors on this roster. Bondis, a junior captain, as now Irwin is called for the travel. And Milford looking a little bit frustrated offensively early in this game, but still just a 2-point deficit facing Milford here with 3:51 to play in the first. And Irwin, quick hands, gets the steal. Dribbles behind the back, releases the shot. Couldn't get quite enough on it. And now up ahead, this pass too far in front of Brigham, and there is Irwin collecting it for the Scarlet Hawks. Now Pierre-Gustavo to the basket, no good. Initial rebound for Valenzola, but Franklin able to poke it loose. And now Franklin pushing forward as both teams trying to play with a lot of speed, but that time Elizabeth Wilson trying to thread that pass between defenders and couldn't keep it in play. So Milford will take it back up the floor with 3:20 to go. Opening quarter of play, Milford versus Franklin on this rivalry night Friday night. Here's Valenzola, gets a little bit of space and collects 2 more points. Tied at 6. As Brigham, through a crowd, is able to use that height to her advantage. First points of the night for Allie Brigham. Gustavo to Kate Lobiser now into the game. She takes the shot from the free throw line and rims out. And the rebound secured by Brigham. Back outside for Wilson. She goes back and forth with Shannon Gray. Can't get around Pierre Gustavo, so they sling the pass over to Brigham out on the perimeter. Now, good hesitation by O'Connell, Megan O'Connell into the game, but ultimately no points for Franklin. Here's Kate Irwin, tries the no-look pass. A little bit of difficulty receiving the pass for Kate Lobiser, but eventually she's able to put it in for two, and we're tied again now 8-all. Under 2 minutes to play in the opening quarter. And again, we see Irwin with the tall task, quite literally, of defending Brigham, giving up quite a bit of height in that exchange. The 5'6" Kate Irwin defending against the 6'3" Allie Brigham. But still making life difficult. There's the senior Irwin and the sophomore Brigham. A little bit of experience level difference between those two players. As Milford takes control of the basketball, we go now under 90 seconds to play in the first quarter. Irwin held off the score sheet so far in this opening period of play. She's been looking to get the rest of her teammates into the offense here early on. Jess Tomaso now going to the bench. Julie Rabinowitz out on the floor. As Milford will have a chance to inbound with a fresh shot clock. Here Gustavo hesitates, now sends the pass all the way out to Rabinowitz and now into the hands of Irwin. Guarded by Bree Atwood. Irwin got a little space before she dished the pass away to Rabinowitz, who now gets called for the travel. Expect these teams in the Hockomock League to game plan for Kate Irwin. By now her reputation is well known as one of the best scorers in the league. Teams doing whatever they can do to try to slow her down, as now Franklin gets called for the travel. Milford with 3 defenders closing in. You have to imagine defense was a point of emphasis for Coach Dolliver at the team's practices after that Tuesday loss, where Milford ended up surrendering 64 points to King Philip. Here's Lobiser, pass outside to Rabinowitz. And now back to Irwin. She heaves up the 3. Looked good out of the hands, but did not fall for Irwin. Now she has to get back defensively, trying to draw the charge, and she ends up taking the foul. Coach Dolliver applauds the effort level out of his senior captain, but Irwin called for a foul with 37.8 seconds to go. Coach Dolliver now in his 3rd year coaching this Milford program. Has had a chance to get to know this nucleus of seniors over his previous 2 seasons. Talking to him before the season started, though, he mentioned with all of the new faces on the varsity level this season, this is the first year that they thought about doing some team building activities prior to the start of the season. A 9-8 lead now for Franklin. 28 seconds left, as Irwin now sends one from long range, and Kate has not quite found her stroke here in the first quarter. Outside shooting in general has not been where Milford wants it to be through this first 8 minutes. Franklin inbounding the basketball, the shot clock turned off. Down to the final 15 seconds. Pass outside to Frontillo. Now back inside for O'Connell to the basket. Franklin gets the points, 2 seconds left. Kate Irwin at the buzzer, heaves it from about 3/4 of the way down, but A little bit too far even for Kate's range. We've seen her knock down plenty from half court in previous seasons, but a little bit too far for her that time. And so Franklin able to take an 11-8 lead as the first quarter comes to an end. We'll take a quick break and have quarter number 2 for you right after this here on coverage of Scarlet Hawks Athletics on Milford TV. Second quarter beginning now in Milford. The Lady Hawks and the Lady Panthers. Franklin with the early 11-8 lead. As immediately they go to Allie Brigham to open up the second quarter, and she gets fouled. And they call the foul against Valenzola. Sending Allie Brigham to the line. Impressive numbers last year for Allie Brigham. Scored a total of 236 points last season, pulled down 237 rebounds, and blocked a total of 56 shots. That was all as a freshman. And is clean with both free throw attempts. 4 points on the night so far, as now Julie Rabinowitz sends one in from long range. But again, Milford has yet to knock down a three-pointer in this first half. Trailing now 13-8. Nice job by Kaylin Frontillo, keeping that from going out of play. 7 seconds on the shot clock as Frontillo gets it back. Now the shot from Megan O'Connell, no good. Milford basketball. Irwin slowly taking the ball up the court. It's a pass towards the corner for Valenzola, but she gets called for the travel. That's already, I believe, the third travel Milford has been called for here in the first half. Emily Pierre-Gustavo will get a rest here on the bench with still 6:53 to go in the half as Jess Tomaso comes back out onto the floor. Rabinowitz and Tomaso teaming up with some tight defense. Franklin able to get around. Now a three-point attempt over everything for O'Connell. But Irwin could not save the ball from going out of play, so possession will go right back to Franklin. Irwin a little bit frustrated with herself. Finally, the inbounds pass gets to Brigham. She sends it all the way outside. And now back into O'Connell. Plenty of time on the shot clock as Franklin looks to open up from three-point range. Instead, the ball ticks off the hands of Franklin right to Irwin, who goes coast to coast, no problem. And there are Kate's first points of the evening. Brings it back down to a one-possession game. And Irwin with another near steal. A little bit of a slow pass, but now Franklin able to pick up the pace as O'Connell puts it in for two. You see timeout taken with an even 6 minutes left on the clock. As these coaching staffs huddle it up with their respective teams. Of course, the head coach for Franklin is John Layton, an excellent coach for the Franklin girls program. And as we talk about TJ Dolliver as the head coach for Milford, he's got quite a coaching staff underneath him, a couple of assistant coaches and Phil Suffredini, and also you see a very familiar face on that sideline as well, and Brian Mackey. Coach Mackey back coaching girls athletics here at Milford High School. Everyone remembers Coach Mackey so vividly for coaching the Milford girls softball team to back-to-back state championships in 2012 and 2013, and also coaching the Milford Legion baseball team to great success. Taking a break from the game to spend time with his family and his two young children, but getting back into the swing of things, coaching at the high school level, serving as an assistant under Coach Dolliver this season. And what a great asset Coach Mackey will be to this team for this 2017-18 season. So a wealth of resources at this Lady Hawks team's disposal as they now retake the floor. Emily Pierre-Gustavo out there as Milford goes with their original starting five: Pierre-Gustavo, Irwin, Tomaso, Tracy, and Valenzola. Trailing now by 5 with 5:56 to play in the half. Milford has not yet led in this game, as Irwin thought about tossing up the long three, now gets it in the hands of Pierre-Gustavo, just offline with the shot. Tracy trying to get in there for the rebound, but it was settled by O'Connell. And now the long pass ahead, in now to Brigham. Valenzola defending well, forcing Brigham to send it back outside. Now Irwin pestering. 10 seconds on the shot clock as Irwin nearly intercepts the pass, but Bree Atwood able to hold on now from three-point range, offline for Shannon Gray, but Franklin controls the board. Franklin still going at rapid speed. The ball came loose, but Milford whistled for the foul. Another foul on Valenzola. And that will send Megan O'Connell to the line. She has 4 points so far in the half. Able to knock down the first free throw. Chance now to give Franklin their biggest lead of the night. She misses the second. But Franklin again able to control the rebound. And so an extended stay on their offensive side of the floor now, forcing this Milford defense to do some extra work, but Milford bailed out there as Atwood was called for the travel. Irwin barking out instructions as she crosses midcourt. Atwood staying close. Now it's Tracy. Without much room to operate, Pierre-Gustavo. Bay Bondis called for the foul on the Franklin side. Irwin a little frustrated as she didn't see the movement she was hoping for. Here's Lobiser with another shot attempt offline. Valenzola back on the bench with a couple of fouls here in the first half. Jill Valenzola with the best opportunity to match up height-wise against Allie Brigham. But she's seen a couple of stints on the bench so far. Coach Oliver not wanting to see Valenzola with too many fouls here in the first half. Brigham at the line, knocks down her third free throw of the half, now her first miss. Up to a 7-point lead for Franklin as Kate Irwin knocks down the three and gets fouled. And immediately Irwin looking to use that as a rallying cry for the team. So a chance for a 4-point play for the senior captain. The Franklin coaching staff not happy with the call. A little bit of an extended talk between the officials and the coaching staff, and now Irwin will set up for the free throw. And gets a couple of friendly bounces to complete the 4-point play. And all of a sudden now Irwin up to 6 points in the half, and Milford able to cut into that deficit. Now a 3-point game once again. Irwin making life difficult for Allie Brigham. Pierre-Gustavo getting a hand in the passing lane. Milford playing some very tight defense as that shot goes off the bottom of the backboard, and now here's Kate Irwin up the floor, up and over a defender and in, and all of a sudden Kate Irwin in a groove, and Milford is within 1 point at 17-16 with 3.5 minutes to play in the first half. And all of a sudden now Franklin trying to slow the tempo, Milford wanting to play fast. Here's O'Connell all the way to the basket. She's been good in this first half. Up to 7 points now. Leading Franklin scorers. Irwin dishes to Tracy, wants it back. Pass took a little bit too long to develop. As Milford turns over the basketball. It was Allie Brigham and Bae Bondus who led the way in terms of offense for Franklin in their most recent game. That was a 61-37 victory over North Attleboro. And you can count it right on cue for Bondus. She knocks down her second three-pointer of the game, now up to 6 points. And the lead back up to 6 for Franklin, so Milford has been trying to work back to even in the second quarter. Every time they get close, Franklin has the answer. Now up the floor for Bondus. She gets the shot, and Kate Irwin will take the foul. It's Irwin's second foul of the half. So Bondus with back-to-back buckets for Franklin to push them ahead 24-16. She'll have the free throw coming up after this timeout. We will take the timeout as well with 2 minutes and 17 seconds remaining in the first half. Franklin now with a 24-16 lead on Milford here on Milford TV. Out of the timeout now, the free throw for Bondus is off the side of the rim. Rebound collected by Tommaso. But it's an 8-point deficit now for Milford, as Julie Rabinowitz able to release that shot just in time, her first points of the game. The deficit now 6, just momentarily. I believe again that was O'Connell. As Milford releases from long range, the rebound ricochets into the corner where it's gathered in by Elizabeth Wilson. Opportunity for Franklin to push their lead into double digits on this possession, as we tick down to just a minute and a half to go until we reach halftime. Another inside look for O'Connell, who is very hot. 9 points now in this second quarter for O'Connell, 11 in the game. And it's now an even 10-point advantage for the Franklin Lady Panthers. Very different game than the one these two teams played a season ago, as now the steal for Bondus. And Milford is back on their heels. Just a couple of minutes ago, we saw that string of baskets for Kate Irwin bring the deficit down to just 3 points, but it's been all Franklin since then. Now the jumper for Bree Atwood is offline. Kate Irwin using her speed to get up the floor, tosses up a circus shot and gets it to fall. 34 seconds left. Can Milford chip further into the deficit? It's back down to 8. Pierre Gustavo trying to get her hands on a steal. Instead, the ball into Brigham. And an opportunity to gather her in her own rebound. Put home the points. 7 points in the half for Allie Brigham, as Irwin brings Milford up the floor for perhaps the final shot of the half. Back into the hands of Irwin. 3 seconds to go. She releases it from 3-point range off the back of the rim, and that will do it for the first half. No luck at the buzzer this time for Kate Irwin. And so Milford will take a 10-point deficit into halftime. And so Milford committing a lot of resources defensively to keep Allie Brigham in check, and that really sprung Megan O'Connell, who had a terrific second quarter with 9 points. She right now leads the Franklin attack with 11. Kate Irwin with a nice second quarter herself. She had 10 points, all of them coming in the second quarter, but still Milford's going to need to make some adjustments at the break. Trailing Franklin 30-20. We will step away for halftime, and we'll have third quarter action when we return next as you enjoy coverage of Milford High School girls basketball here on Milford TV. Welcome back to Milford High School. It is time for the second half of this girls basketball matchup between Milford and Franklin. As you can see on the scoreboard, Milford with some work to do, trailing 30-20. Taking a look at some of the scoring leaders through the first half, it is Megan O'Connell right now who leads all scorers for Franklin with 11 points. Kate Irwin leads the Milford scoring attack with 10 points. Faye Bondus with 8, Allie Brigham with 7, and Bree Atwood with 4, rounding out the Franklin scoring for Milford. 4 points for Valenzola, and then 2 points apiece for Rabinowitz, Pierre Gustavo, and Lobiser. As now the ball wrestled away by Atwood. Valenzola back out on the floor, couldn't receive the pass cleanly, and Atwood able to pick it off. We'll have an update on the boys basketball team for our live streaming viewers in just a moment, as Megan O'Connell, the scoring leader in this game so far, misses her first attempt here in the second half. Pierre Gustavo getting all sorts of contact by Allie Brigham and eventually gets called for the travel, and Coach Dolliver immediately goes over to talk to the official. Coach Dolliver remains frustrated after the conversation as Milford turns the basketball over. Irwin racing in, trying to get the steal. Atwood to the basket. That ball rimming out, went halfway down. Pierre Gustavo now trying to keep her head in the game after that frustrating call a moment ago. Here cuts to the basket. Tried to pass it right at the last second, but Franklin able to get another turnover. And now the three-pointer tossed up too strong by Atwood. We still wait for our first points of the half. Here's Irwin. She lets it float. Can't get the bank off the glass, but Valenzola is able to put it back. And now 6 points in the game for the senior captain, Jill Valenzola. Milford trying to gain some traction offensively. They've been playing catch-up all night, narrowing that gap, but never able to tie this game up or pull ahead, not since the early minutes of the first quarter, as an awkward pass glances the netting before ending up in the hands of Juliana Tracy. Here's Irwin, no-look pass outside to Pierre Gustavo, who bobbled it. And now Irwin takes back over with 10 seconds left on the shot clock. That pass eventually finding Pierre Gustavo, just could not finish. Looping pass outside to Brigham. Guarded by Tracy, kicks it back outside to O'Connell. Now Atwood will try it again from 3, and this time she makes it. Second three-pointer made tonight. Tommaso calling for it in the corner. O'Connell closes in defensively. Now here's the feed inside to Valenzola. She gets fouled as Elizabeth Wilson commits the infraction on the Franklin side, and that will send Valenzola to the line. It's Milford's first trip to the free throw line in this game. Valenzola misses the first shot. Get to that update now on the boys basketball team for our live streaming viewers. Tough start for the Milford boys on the road in Franklin, trailing 16-7 after the first quarter. Valenzola goes 1 for 2 from the line. And once again, the deficit stands at 10. Up the floor for Wilson, guarded by Tomaso. And now, high arcing shot out of the hand of Bay Bondis. And Milford and Franklin get tied up. Possession arrow going Franklin's way. Right off the inbounds pass, O'Connell able to collect her first bucket here in the third quarter. 35-23. Deficit growing here. Milford not getting the spark they needed coming out of the locker room as Tomaso misses another outside shot. Milford tries to flip it back in. Not enough elevation on the shot. Now Franklin comes away. Irwin all alone on the defensive end and could not stop O'Connell, who's quickly now up to 15 points in the game, and that forces a Milford timeout with 4 minutes and 20 seconds to go, up to a 37-23 lead for the Franklin Lady Panthers. And just to put that in perspective, the last time these two teams played, which was early on in the 2016-17 season, Franklin only scored 33 points in the game, losing to Milford by a final of 37-33. But this is a very different offense than what Milford faced there in what I believe was the second game of the season a year ago. Franklin, after losing those first 6 games out of the chute, they were able to put together a nice second half effort. They ended up winning 9 of their last 14 games on the year last year to come very close to a playoff spot. They ended up finishing the season last year at 9-11 overall, so just 1 win shy of a postseason berth. They averaged 48.5 points per game, which was a pretty solid number given the struggles that they had early on in the season. But this is already their 3rd game of this 2017-2018 season. They come in at 2-0. They enjoyed a 33-29 win over non-conference Holy Name back on the 8th, and then a big 61-37 drubbing of North Attleboro earlier this week. So right now, this is a team with a lot of momentum on their side. Milford trying to find a way to generate some momentum of their own. Irwin trying to get that long pass to Pierre Gustavo. Has to flip the ball forward to avoid the half-court violation. The backcourt violation, I should say. Milford able to save it. Franklin called for the foul. Tomaso sends it back into play now with under 4 minutes to play in the third quarter, as again the pass is intercepted. Franklin takes it the other way, but Milford able to draw the offensive foul as Jess Tomaso gets her feet set underneath the basket. You can see the frustration starting to show through on some of these faces on Milford. Jess Tomaso in particular, that has just not been able to get her offense going, but makes a good defensive play. We'll see if Milford can turn that into points, as Valenzola will get fouled. And Valenzola will shoot free throws, but right now Coach Layton trying to get the timeout called, as Franklin had sent Allie Brigham to the bench to get a little bit of a breather. And now his team will talk it over. Franklin remains in the driver's seat right now at 37-23. Timeout on the floor. Back with more in a moment here on Milford TV. Milford could certainly use these free throws to be converted here. It's Valenzola's second trip to the line here in the third quarter. Went 1 for 2 her first time around. cut it to a 12-point margin. Knocks down both shots. Milford 0-1 on the season, Franklin 2-0. Valenzola defending well against Brigham, but ends up getting called for the foul in the end. Milford fans getting a little restless, wanting to see the officials keep the whistles in the pockets a little bit more as Brigham now gets around a pair of defenders. The shot doesn't fall, trying to settle her own rebound, but it eventually gets into the hands of Tracy. And now the long pass pulled down by Tommaso. She pops up between a double team and gets her first points of the night. Sorely needed for Tommaso. The effort has been there, and now finally gets the tough bucket. And it's back down to a 10-point differential, 37-27, 2:54 left in this third quarter. Still plenty of time for a Milford comeback, but they need to come through with some stops. Try to turn the tide. Pierre Gustavo defending closely against Shannon Gray. A foul called under the basket. That one called against Tracy. I believe it was called against Tracy, but Joe Valenzola heading to the bench. Perhaps it was Valenzola that picked up the foul, and Franklin turns it over, struggling to get that inbounds pass. Can Milford bring this deficit back down into the single digits? Pierre Gustavo calling for the ball in the paint instead. Irwin trying to force the issue herself, does not get the layup. Lobuser, good positioning defensively. Franklin gets the ball to Elizabeth Wilson. That's Wilson's first points of the night. Here's Irwin again, surveying her options. Leaves it for Kate Lobuser. Irwin nearly intercepting that pass, just could not get a full handle on it, and it ends up glancing out of play. But it does glance off of Franklin on the way out, so good news for Milford there. Julie Rabinowitz back out on the floor, gets the pass from Irwin. Now drops it back inside, a quick pass back out to Lobuser. 90 seconds to go in the third quarter. 10 seconds left on the shot clock as Irwin along two offline. Irwin has not contributed any points here in this third quarter as Franklin drops in the three, counted for Bay Bondus. Closing minute of the third quarter now as that deficit starts to increase again for Milford. Rabinowitz getting tripped up. Foul called on Shannon Gray. Tracy now can't get around her defender. Good pass into Tommaso, but just could not finish. Now another three for Franklin, this time for Wilson, no good, but good rebounding continues for the Lady Panthers. Atwood gets the putback. "17-point lead now for Franklin as Rabinowitz puts it in. A long two for Rabinowitz. Time winding down. Milford with another foul, and that one going against Kate Irwin. By my count, that's Kate's third foul. That will send her to the bench for these final 5.9 seconds. Pierre Gustavo back out on the floor. They kick it back outside into Brigham. Saw the wide open shooter on the perimeter, but the pass went between the legs of Bree Atwood. And so no final shot for Franklin as time expires in the third quarter. But another impressive offensive period of play for the Lady Panthers as they open up a 44-29 lead. And Milford now will gather around their head coach trying to find a solution to this tough Franklin offense. A big deficit facing Milford as we enter into the fourth quarter right on the other side of this break here on coverage of Milford High School Athletics on Milford TV. Back in the Milford gym for fourth quarter action. Tim Coet here with you on the call. Milford girls basketball taking on Franklin in a 44-29 score. Milford with a 15-point deficit to overcome with just about 8 minutes left to do so. We do want to welcome in everyone who is tuning in via our live streaming coverage of Milford High School Athletics tonight. Elizabeth Wilson chipping in her second bucket of this second half and upping that Franklin lead now to 17 points. Live streaming this coverage on MilfordTV.net and also on our Milford TV educational feed on the live stream app. Yes. You see 2 points for Jess Tomaso. And now coming through with the steal. Sends the pass to Pierre Gustavo, the up fake, and the shot. Back-to-back buckets for Milford, starting to bring the gym to life. It was a very difficult third quarter. Milford outscored 14-9 in that third quarter of play. They made just 3 shots from the field. And now Franklin called for the travel. And this is exactly what Milford needs. They need to string baskets together. Feed inside to Valenzola, now back out for Tracy. She'll shoot the 3 offline. Milford continuing to work well off the glass. The effort level ratcheting up here for Milford. Still a lot of work to do. Gustavo getting the first free throw home. Two for 2 from the line for Pierre Gustavo. Deficit down to 11. Can Milford continue to put the pressure on defensively? And so the foul going against Franklin. They'll call it on Brigham. Franklin committing a couple of turnovers here so far in the fourth quarter. They're opening the door for Milford. And now the foul as Kate Irwin ended up hitting the deck, and so that's consecutive fouls getting called against Allie Brigham, and that will force the sophomore to the bench. They'll send Megan O'Connell back out onto the floor. Kate can't convert on the free throw. Jill Valenzola pulling down the rebound. But the possession arrow going Franklin's way, the jump ball called for. So Irwin missing the free throw, and Kate has not yet scored here in the second half. All of her offense came in that second quarter. She scored 10 points in the second quarter, really heated up in a hurry. But she's been quiet other than that second period, as O'Connell goes tough to the basket, gets the foul. O'Connell offline on the shot. $16 points so far in the game for O'Connell. One more free throw to go. Misses them both, but Franklin gets the rebound. Pierre Gustavo pokes it loose, and then it hits off of Atwood as it goes out of play. Milford outscoring Franklin 6-2 so far in this fourth quarter, as Valenzola sends the pass to nowhere. Narrowly misses our sideline camera, which is being operated tonight by Jake Rui. So Franklin now back up the floor, still with the 11-point lead. Milford's had the chance to narrow it down further. Irwin missing free throws and then a failed trip up the floor just a moment ago. Milford can't pass up those chances. The three-point shot well offline for Franklin as Tommaso scoops up the rebound. Bounce pass goes to Valenzola, and now finally she finds Irwin. And Irwin to Tommaso, has time to set her feet from three-point range. No good. Tracy picks up the rebound. Now it's Valenzola, and Jill will pick up the foul. Gets hard contact. It's like, particularly to that right shoulder. She tries to flex it. And she sets up from the line. Valenzola's made the majority of Milford's free throw attempts so far tonight. Allie Brigham checks back into the game after picking up a couple of fouls here in the fourth quarter. Milford 6 of 9 from the free throw line. All of those attempts coming here in the second half. 10-point margin with 4:43 to play. Milford trying to get some doubt to creep into the minds of these Franklin players. They've played with a lot of confidence so far. As that shot rims out hard, goes right to Valenzola. Here's Irwin, thought about the quick three. Now it's Pierre Gustavo, and it rattles home. Counted from three-point range for Pierre Gustavo. And it's down to a 7-point Franklin lead, as Coach Dolliver claps his hands, wants to see that intensity stay up on the defensive side. Pierre Gustavo with the reach in. Ultimately, I believe they might have called the foul on Irwin. Regardless, it's O'Connell at the line. She misses her third straight free throw, but Atwood picks up the rebound. Her shot no good. Brigham gets an opportunity, and Brigham gets fouled. That size inside has been so difficult for Milford in terms of rebounding. We've seen a lot of second and third opportunities for Franklin on some of these possessions. Allie Brigham goes 2 for 2 from the free throw line, and it's now back up to an 11-point Franklin lead with 3:54 to play. Turnaround jumper for Valenzola from the free throw line is good. "12 points in the game now for Jill Valenzola. She's held up her end of the bargain as now Kate Irwin's able to come through with the steal, goes all the way to the rack, can't finish, and Brigham is there. Tommaso and Tracy try to team up to pin her up against the baseline, but gets the pass away to Gray. The deficit for Milford stands at 9 as Franklin gets a good look from three-point range, but too strong on the shot. Tommaso with another rebound. And now here's Irwin up the floor with just over 3 minutes to go. Can Milford find a shot here to keep working that deficit down? Here's Irwin. Ball goes out of play off of Franklin. Not sure where Kate was hoping to go with that pass, but got bailed out as it deflected off of Franklin and out. So Milford will send it back into play with 17 seconds on the shot clock, 2 minutes and 57 seconds left in the game. Into Tracy, briefly loses the handle. Now Irwin loses the handle. Pierre Gustavo drives inside, leaves it for Valenzola. Juliana Tracy from two-point range, no good. The ball goes back to the Lady Panthers. Couple of opportunities there. Milford could have brought it down at least to 7. But it stands at 9 as now we'll see free throws from the junior captain, Bay Bondas. True on the first shot. Bondas 2 for 2. And the crowd grows quiet again as the deficit increases back to 11 points for Milford, as now we'll see the timeout taken on the Lady Hawks side. Just 2 minutes and 36 seconds to go. It's starting to look like a tall task for Milford at this point, down 52 to 41. Quick update on what's going on over in Franklin on the boys' side, getting a score update at halftime. Franklin with a 34 to 21 lead at the half. So Milford struggling, the boys struggling out of the gates, working themselves into a pretty big hole. Trailing by 13 now at the break, so it's been tough going for both the boys and the girls against their Franklin counterparts here on this Friday night. We'll see if the boys have a comeback in them in the second half for this girls team. Much less time to work with. Just 2 minutes and 36 seconds as the teams retake the court out of the timeout. Kate Irwin will inbound right in front of her coaching staff. Milford with Irwin, Pierre Gustavo, Tommaso, Tracy, and Valenzola, their starting five. With just 2.5 minutes to play, here's Pierre Gustavo from three-point range, no good. With every miss, the chance of a last-second comeback diminishes greatly for the Lady Scarlet Hawks. Coach Dolliver hoping to see good solid defense here right through to the bitter end. As Franklin takes it inside, Wilson's shot's no good. Franklin with the second chance effort. It doesn't fall. Milford gets the rebound and a foul is called. Shots for Jess Tommaso with 2:02 to play. Tommaso with 4 points. All of them have come in the second half. It's her first look from the free throw line tonight. Tommaso misses both. So still an 11-point margin. The clock certainly a friend to Franklin at this point. Tracy doing a good job against Brigham. Gets some help from Pierre Gustavo as now Tommaso pokes the ball loose. Here she goes the other way. And the rebound, or excuse me, the layup just won't go for Tommaso. Here's Irwin. She scoops it up. Turns around for the shot. Her shot offline. And Milford just having a very difficult shooting night here tonight. 8 points in the first quarter, 12 in the second, only 9 in the third quarter. 12 points so far here in the fourth, and a chance again here for Tommaso at the free throw line. And you can see really wearing her emotions out on her sleeve right now for Tommaso. Very frustrated. 3 straight misses from the line. One more attempt coming up. Gets it to bounce through. 52-42 as Milford puts the pressure on in the backcourt. Tommaso gets a hand on that pass, but it ends up getting to Bondas. Pierre Gustavo in close, forcing the turnover. Ticking down to the final minute of play as Irwin just barely gets that ball to Tommaso. Tommaso steps back, takes the three, too short. Rebound goes to Brigham. Inside look for O'Connell, excuse me, no good. Here's Kate Irwin. She feeds Tommaso. Tommaso gets the bucket and the foul. So Tommaso up to 7 points. The deficit now down to 8. It's as close as it's been since the second quarter. But the problem is there are just 42.8 seconds left in the game. And so a similar storyline unfolding here for Milford as what we saw the last time we saw this Lady Hawks team out on the floor in that playoff game in Marlborough last February. Milford facing a big deficit into the fourth quarter, a double-digit deficit into the fourth quarter. They were able to put some pressure on late to cut it down to a more manageable margin, but it ended up being just a little bit too little, a little bit too late. And what ended up being a 5-point loss for Milford against the Lady Panthers of Marlborough. The deficit in this fourth quarter here tonight against the Franklin Lady Panthers was as high as 17 points. Milford cutting it down to 8 here. Free throw attempt coming up for Jess Tommaso. Tommaso, an emotional player, which more often than not we see her channel that emotion into clutch play, whether it's here on the basketball court or out on the softball field. And Tommaso will get another chance here, and right now Coach Layton not at all happy over on the Franklin sideline. And this time Tommaso nails it. (45-52). And Coach Layton continues to plead his case on every call to whichever official will give him the time. Kate Irwin, who had been on the bench for a moment, checks back into the game. Coach Layton, in between sips of water, continuing to argue with the officials, as meanwhile his captain Bae Bondas stands at the free throw line. Picks up her third successful free throw of this fourth quarter. Goes 2 for 2. 15 points now in the game for Bondas. The pass over to Julie Rabinowitz. High arc to that three-point shot off the side of the rim. And as Brigham pulls down the rebound, she gets fouled. And so the pace of this game slowing down to a crawl. Milford committing a lot of fouls here in the closing seconds to try to give themselves a chance. Meanwhile, Franklin now can send that lead back up over double digits. With their sophomore star at the free throw line. Brigham misses on the free throws, but again, Franklin with the benefit of the rebound. Franklin cleaning up on the offensive glass tonight. It's been a big reason for their success. Franklin seconds away from getting their season off to a much different start here as they did a year ago. An 0-6 start to the 2016-17 season. Barring a dramatic comeback here in the closing seconds with just 25 seconds to go, Franklin will improve to 3-0 to start off this 17-18 season, I should say. Here's Jill Valenzola, who's been a bright spot offensively for the Lady Hawks, particularly in this second half. She has 10 points in this second half, and this is a second half in which Kate Irwin has been held completely off the score sheet. So the Franklin defense really doing a good job of taking Irwin out of the flow of the offense, forcing the rest of this Milford roster to beat them. Valenzola's been able to shoulder part of the load offensively, but really the big problem for Milford was the lack of consistent outside shooting. You look through the score sheet so far tonight, Milford has just 2 successful three-point shots in the game. One of them came from Kate Irwin back in the second quarter. Emily Pierre-Gustavo knocking one down earlier in this fourth quarter, and that is it. They've taken a lot of attempts from behind the arc. We've seen Tommaso, Pierre-Gustavo, Irwin, as well as Julie Rabinowitz all test their luck from long range, but the shots have just not fallen for the Lady Scarlet Hawks. (56-47) score. Franklin with the lead and about to send in the inbounds pass. Tommaso guarding that pass. It ends up into Bondas before Milford closes in to commit the foul. And that will be the night for Kate Irwin. Forced to commit the foul in that situation, and so Kate, a tough night certainly by her lofty standards here tonight. She scored 10 points, all of them coming in the second quarter. Did some good facilitating work throughout the second half. Bondas 5 for 5 from the free throw line in this fourth quarter, 5 of 6 overall in the game. And a perfect 6 for 6. Good free throw shooting for Franklin throughout the game tonight. They've been fundamentally sound. Here's Tommaso, cuts to the basket. The shot no good, no fouls for Milford here as Franklin will dribble out the remainder of the clock, putting the finishing touches on a 58-47 victory. So Franklin wins it by 11. So a good night for the Lady Panthers here on the Milford floor And so as a result, Franklin will improve to 3-0 on the season. Milford will drop to 0-2. And so, as we mentioned, not a lot of home cooking for the Lady Scarlet Hawks through the early portion of the season. They will not play at home again until January 9th. They will play 4 straight games on the road, facing Taunton, Norwood, Hopedale, and Stoughton before they finally return here to their home gym. So we'll see where Milford stands when they come back from that lengthy road trip. Our next coverage will be on January 9th for the girls team, but we do have more boys basketball action on tap next week as the boys return home to take on their counterparts from Taunton here on December 19th. That is when our next coverage will take place. Until then, a big thank you to our Milford TV crew on hand here tonight, our director Rob O'Keefe, and our camera operators Mike Sperling, Jake Rui, and Jerry Maglita. And I am Tim Coet. That final score, one final time, Franklin defeats the Milford Lady Scarlet Hawks by a final score of 58-47. This has been a presentation of Milford High School Athletics here on Milford TV. So long, everybody.